Should men be allowed to arm themselves in the environment which is the current world of dating and relationships, which quite frankly has a lot of people, men in particular, wondering if marriage is even worth it? So make sure you guys stick around for the full video. We're going to be diving into a lot here.
Back in the 1950s, etc., we had religion, we had society shame, we had the fear of God, etc. All these things were training wheels that kept women in line to be good, dutiful mothers, daughters, sisters, etc. But these conventions are gone. What do we have now? We have a modern day society where we tell women to be promiscuous. We tell women to go get your bag, girl. We tell women to go on OnlyFans. We tell women to make money by any means necessary, regardless of if it destroys their image. So what I'm saying is that I need guys to adapt to the new normal. And that's why I tell guys, hey, you have to have certain things in place. And I think a guy shouldn't even think about getting serious with women unless he's had sex with at least 50 partners. Now, that even though that sounds crazy, the reason why I say that is because women nowadays are more promiscuous than ever before. And if a guy isn't in a position to be able to identify women that are worthy of a serious relationship, well, he's going to get taken to the cleaners because most women have more experience with opposite gender than men do. If I told you you have a boxing match in 5 years and your opponent is going to be training every single day and knocking people out, would you train her?
So guys, here's the deal. I thought about this after the last video that I released, and I said that I was going to be doing a bit of a follow-up, but it looks like there's actually going to be more of a follow-up to come, and of course that means that there's actually going to be more videos on this topic. And of course, I've been working up to this little project that I've been working on the incoming crisis with men, but I want to kind of find a way to include all this data and everything in that actual project. It's probably going to be a relatively lengthy one, and I've kind of alluded to the outcome that I think is probably going to occur, but I'm not going to be speaking much about that in this video here. I'm talking more about what it is that men are dealing with and some of the thoughts that we're dealing with. And we got to ask the question, is there even really and truly an incentive for anybody to even get married at this moment in time? And also to go on top of that, what I mentioned at the very, very beginning of the video, should men actually find ways to adapt and actually arm themselves when dealing with the world of dating? So obviously things have changed. People are different nowadays. Men have become different. Women have become different. Let's just go ahead and get that out there. I think politics has a very, very large bit of what to has a lot to do with this, but I also maintain the position that nuclear families, especially strong nuclear families, are the backbone of this nation and the backbone of this future. Chances are if you came from a good family, eventually you're probably going to become a good person. Not to say that if you come from a bad family, you're not going to be a good person or anything like that, but let's just be honest, 90% of your behavior is learned, so chances are you probably learn your values from your family. Obviously, some people out there are not fortunate to be in good positions, and they quite frankly came out very, very good. I can give you guys several examples from my own personal life where a kid was born and raised in a very, very bad, hostile environment, and yet turned out to be quite successful and very, very much a good person. So it's not always an indicator, but of course, it does in fact occur most of the time. Most people, when they come from good families, typically tend to turn out very well. It's very, very much one of the reasons why it is that people like myself constantly say that nuclear families are the bedrock of this nation. And of course, it's also about morality and of course the decisions that you will make in life. You learn your value system at home, and of course marriage and relationships is obviously viewed as important. However, there is this group out there that oftentimes believes that it is not important, which I think a lot of that has to do with materialism and overall consumerism, but don't worry, we'll talk about that more in this video. So I wanted to do a bit of a follow-up to the previous video where Fresh and Fit went on to talk with the Timcast IRL, and of course there was this other guy there who, quite frankly, whose name I keep on forgetting every time, even though he obviously said some things I agree with as well. But this part also brings into question the whole trad conservative thing, meaning the whole trad con wife thing. Should you get married at a very, very young age? Or should you do like Myron and Fresh say, and should you sleep with over 50 women before you decide to bed down or actually begin to pursue an actual wife? Let me go ahead and say this right now. The vast majority of marriages out there, the vast majority of relationships are not planned. They're not pre-planned. They happen organically. Oftentimes you may meet somebody, your significant other somewhere, maybe a church, maybe a shopping mall, maybe a public place, maybe at a gathering. There's even some people who meet at bars. I highly advise against that because chances are if you meet a person at the bar, it's very, very unlikely that they will remember who the hell you are. And if you're lucky to actually go home with a girl, you got to ask yourself a question. Do you want to marry somebody who quite frankly went to bed with you that same night? And if you are a lady and something happens, you got to ask yourself a question. Would you want to get into a serious relationship with a guy who actually went along with that? Either way, at the same time, though, it kind of goes back to the old saying that If it's a crappy lock, then obviously somebody can get in there. It's the whole master key thing. I'm not very, very funny, not very, very good at that actual thing. Of course, I have my moments, but of course, here I am going off script once again. Fact of the matter is, there's obviously some problems on both sides of the aisle, and we definitely need to discuss. What does Fresh and Fit actually do? They try to give men advice, and by the way, I'm not in favor of everything these guys say. I don't sit down and listen to these guys all the time, and there have obviously been times where, quite frankly, they have been caught in the wrong, but here's the thing. For the most part, I think the advice that they're giving men is actually quite good. They're trying to tell men to get in shape, manage their money. Like I said, I don't always agree with every bit of their advice, but I do think that their intentions are good, at least in that sphere. However, there are also other little controversies, like they always have girls who are OnlyFans girls, which I'll talk about here soon as well, because obviously I got to talk about both sides, which, by the way, was my intention to begin with. And of course, a lot of people kind of clown on them because they're bringing in girls who are city girls in Miami who have OnlyFans accounts and, quite frankly, are not marriage material. And of course, they call them 304s, all that type of stuff. I don't really, really go with the whole 304 phrase. If a girl just likes to screw around, I just straight up call her what the hell she is. A straight up hoe. Now, before I go any further, I need to go ahead and say this right now, okay? We're living in an age where everything, quite frankly, is digital. Everything is online, okay? You have a lot of men out there, and of course you have a massive testosterone shortage, which I'll talk more about that in the Crisis in Men video that I plan on doing at the end of all this. It's probably going to come out later on this year. It's probably going to be about 2 hours long. And one of the problems that we have is that men, quite frankly, are not practicing what we call moderation. Think about it this way here. I've had this conversation about the topic of gaming before, and I don't make fun of gamers, or I don't make fun of those who like anime for a reason. Well, not only do I not make fun of them for the fact that they're also a part of my audience, I know that a few of them are, I also don't make fun of them because at one point in time I used to be very, very much in that same spectrum. Somewhat nerdy, somewhat geeky, love to play video games. Nothing wrong with being a nerd, nothing wrong with being a geek. I'm pretty sure if you're a guy who's a little bit off, I'm pretty sure you can go to a Comic-Con or a video game convention. You probably find a lot of very, very good-looking gamer girls there. You might find some people that, quite frankly, you have something in common with. Or you may find the strong, independent chick who actually just has a thing for guys who are a little bit off. You never know that. I'm here to tell you right now, this is not a black pill. It's never going to be a black pill. I, quite frankly, don't believe in black pills. What I believe in is the red pill that then moves to white pill, but then you've got those guys who go on the red pill and, quite frankly, stay in the red pill, and next thing you know, bad habits develop. As I've said before, I'm not against the red pill movement, even though I'm not a red pill type guy. Most of what these guys say I actually really and truly believe in. But the thing is this right here, you have to be able to separate the good from the bad, which, by the way, most of what these guys are actually telling these men about being confident, learning brand new skills, making money, managing your money, is actually good things to do. Let's just not completely discount these people altogether. It's when you start going down the rabbit hole of quote-unquote charlatans and pickup gurus who, quite frankly, let's just say give you some very, very bad messaging. One of those guys, of course, is the 33 Secrets, and then you've got the black pill guys out there who try to give men, in fact, black pills and let them know that women, quite frankly, ain't nothing more than scuzzy old hoes, which, by the way, I can already hear somebody in the comment section saying that was the case due to the fact that they have OnlyFans and Tinder, and that their cell phone puts them in positions where they could very, very easily cheat and, quite frankly, get whatever the hell they want. I mean, there are YouTube channels out there who expose this crap all the time, and thank God those channels exist. If you ever run into that girl in the future, if you actually recognize her, just stay the hell away from her and go find someone else. There's plenty of fish in the sea. I'm not saying this to be positive. I'm just being good old-fashioned realistic with you. With that right there being said, though, men, in fact, should still be able to arm themselves. So I do believe that watching something like, say, Fresh and Fit or Sartain or even Rollo to a certain degree, even though I don't really care for Rollo, I think that you can separate the good from the bad. I think that you can actually make up your mind on what works for you, what parts of these advice actually work. I do, in fact, believe that most of these men are, in fact, trying to help other men out.
Okay. So let me be very clear. I think the family is the cornerstone of every thriving society. The nuclear family is absolutely needed. We believe in a nuclear family. We don't tell people to not pursue a nuclear family. However, pursuing a nuclear family in today's day and age without prerequisite experience is extremely dangerous given what you're up against. So what we tell guys is, because you asked earlier, what is a man? I think obviously duty, purpose, leadership, strength, integrity, and the ability to provision, right? And when you have all these traits together, you could be a good father. But what I want guys is to be in a position where they've experienced women, they understand women, and now they're coming to that choice on their own, right? And they're deciding to do that versus being forced into it, pressured into it, etc. Because the things that were in place before to make family an appealable pursuit for a majority of men are no longer there. I'll explain what I mean by this. Thanks to feminism, social media, the modern day world that we have now, where we live in what I call a Uber Eats type society where instant gratification is a thing, women have changed, and women have changed significantly. Not only have they changed, they've changed to a point where it's no longer in their best interest to stay within the confinements of a marriage. Now, even though...
Now, granted, that was a little bit lengthier of a clip than I would have wanted it to be, but at the same time, though, the trust level obviously is an issue. In the video that I made previously that came out on Tuesday, which I'll link in the description box, which I'll link in the comment section, I talked about the whole thing about, I asked the question, does a woman's body count matter? Yes, it does matter, because at the end of the day, when you decide to get married to a woman, or you decide to find your significant other, I don't know if this is actually on women's minds or not, but at the same time, though, the thing is this here, and don't worry, there was something else that was left out that I forgot to bring up, but of course, it's the question of marriage. Is there an actual incentive to be married, to actually get married or even be married? We'll talk about it here a little bit more here in a second. The thing is this right here. We live in a world nowadays where everything is on social media. Everything you can get much, much easier. You can order things online from Amazon, and it's actually creating a society where, quite frankly, we're not having enough conversations. We're not talking to one another. We're not actually, how do I say this? We're not putting our best foot forward. We seem to not care about other people when we go out. Due to the fact that we're mostly online, we're losing that emotional connection with people, and I think that that's obviously quite tragic. And don't worry, I'll be doing a project on social media and the actual effects it has on the brain, because for the most part, social media finds a way to actually goes back to the very, very early clip that I showed you guys at the very beginning of this video that was relatively lengthy, because at the end of the day, it is about creating a family, it is about creating a legacy, it is about having children. But let's be honest, today's world is much, much harder to navigate. I mean, it really and truly is much, much harder to navigate, especially given the fact that just about everything is online. In the previous video, I made mention of Tim's comments on being in a small town, meeting a girl in church, actually meeting a girl through another friend. That type of stuff does happen, but obviously if you live in a city, you're obviously at a bit of a disadvantage, because obviously in much, much larger cities, things kind of go far and fast. Like, they go really fast. They're coming at you almost damn near 100 miles an hour. And with more girls to college, you know, I'll just let Myron explain.
The thing is that the reason why I say 50 in general, right, and it's a very controversial take, is that because, dude, if you go to a university, right, and there's more women going to college now than men, by the way. Women dominate college attendance. What do you think the girls are doing there? They're there besides pursuing useless degrees, they're smashing. These girls, I know girls that will get laid like 20 dudes in a semester easily, if not more. So by the time a girl's, done with Greek life, done with college, etc., going pursuing her master's degree or whatever it may be, a lot of these girls will have double-digit body counts. And I don't want guys to go into a situation where they have 5 bodies, she has 50 bodies, she's going ahead and selling him purity, telling him what he wants to hear. He doesn't know better because he hasn't dealt with enough women. And then next thing you know, he's getting finessed.
Aren't you contributing to the problem though by having sex with a bunch? Aren't you just creating more?
Yeah, men have to have sex with women.
Wait. If women are in place, religion was a thing, shame was a thing, there was no social media, women actually were women and they were feminine and they weren't the masculine, butchering, ridiculous women that they are nowadays, I would tell you, yes, let's do it. But unfortunately, I cannot dispense that advice. That is the equivalent to giving them a butter knife and telling them, go into this gunfight. These women are different. They've changed. Men haven't changed, but women have.
But stay away from
religion was a thing. Shame was a thing. There was no social media. Women actually were women and they were feminine and they weren't the masculine, butchering, ridiculous women that they are nowadays. I would tell you, yes, let's do it. But unfortunately, I cannot dispense that advice. That is the equivalent to giving them a butter knife and telling them, go into this gunfight. These women are different. They've changed. Men haven't changed, but women have.
But stay away from these areas.
Girls are also much, much racier nowadays. I mean, it used to be that you would go to the beach, and of course, if you live in a state like where I live at here in the South, girl, you go on the beach. Girl is out there walking around two-piece bikini. Of course, it's not as revealing. It's still revealing enough to where it, quite frankly, gets us gets up in the air wanting you, this, that, and the other. But of course, the attraction arouses. But now girls will walk around with straight-up G-strings and thongs at the college pool party. Makes me wonder. Which, by the way, I'm not complaining about that. I'm just simply saying that girls are a little bit more racier nowadays than they were before. And some people, of course, will point out the fact that obviously certain things that Myron mentioned earlier, like shaming, religion, things like that, have actually gone away. Not like I'm a fan of actually shaming people, but I'm just simply saying that shaming was one way of keeping somebody in check. It was definitely a way to help control and help curb behavior. It was also a way to help curb potential bad behavior somewhere down the future. Women obviously are not acting the same as they are back in the 1950s and 1960s, and obviously we've evolved since then, so we have to find a way to kind of adapt to things. However, that does not mean that you need to completely sell out your values, which I'll talk about in a later video. Really quick, before I go any further, and I'm going to come back to this again, the incentive to get married. Right now, nowadays, the incentive to get married is not that high. A lot of women out there think that men make anywhere between $75 to $200 to $300,000 a year. There's even videos out there of ladies basically saying that they demand a man who makes that much money. I mean, hell, there's actually a TikTok out there of a woman demanding that a guy have a certain education. I mean, crazy stuff. I mean, when you throw that type of crap out there on the internet, you honestly wonder why it is that men are adopting the whole passport bro mantra and they're going overseas. And you ladies, of course, are getting upset about it. I mean, you post to it on social media all the time. You want to act like you're making fun of men. Of course, you're jeering and sneering at them, and of course, you're poking fun of them. But at the end of the day, that's one less guy that you have an opportunity with, and after a while, you then begin to find out that you're getting older, much more up there in age. You don't have any kids, you don't have a fulfilling life, and at the end of the day, you just become a good old-fashioned cat lady. Now, what the hell do we have to blame for this? Good old-fashioned feminism. Now, really quick, I have not spent a whole lot of time in videos going after feminism because I think the feminazis and stuff like that, I just don't think that those people are really and truly worth my time to sit here and just go after feminists all day, even though I obviously think that radical feminism is a problem. However, I do agree with another content creator, the Aristocratic Utensil, also used to go by the name Spoon, when he did a video on this a while back, and he stated that the real problem was actually more materialism than it was actual feminism. Think about it really quick. This girl goes out here, she posts all kinds of pictures of herself in a two-piece bikini. I mean, you see the situation with Jonah Hill. He actually demanded standards, and of course, what the hell happened in his case? I'm pretty sure you guys know. That entire thing turned to a complete total can of worms when he was clearly in the right for it, okay? Logan Paul obviously did not read the fine print when it came to his girl Nina. Next thing you know, you got this guy, Dylan Dennis, posting pictures of his girl all over the place with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. As a matter of fact, one of the pictures in the thumbnail of the previous video that I did on this topic was her, well, you know, you'll see it in the thumbnail. Fact of the matter is that a lot of men are looking at the incentive to get married, and they're probably saying to themselves, you know, I really wish I could have someone that's much more traditional, even though it's going to cost a lot of money to get that way. They're not exactly warming up to American women because of the feminism. Figure I'd toss that out there. Now, really quick, before I go to the next segment, I do need to say this, though. Would I like, now me, I grew up in a household where my mother worked. I grew up in a household where my sister worked, my father worked. I would eventually join the Marines and work a lot of jobs too. I don't mind my woman going to work, okay? I mean, obviously I want to be the provider, and of course it's obviously going to irk me if she makes more money. It's a natural thing to do. But still at the same time, though, I understand a lot of the messaging, especially given the fact that they're telling these women to focus more on their careers than their marriage. We used to live in a time where women could actually do both. They could actually raise a family. The typical traditional arc that I can think of is that you get married to a woman, you have kids, you have children sometime after you get married, or she may sit down from her job, or maybe she may quit her job, or maybe the husband will go out and make ends meet while she raises the kids. That was the traditional archetype. And then typically when the kids would go to school, or maybe they were in preschool or old enough after a couple of years, typically what would happen is that a woman would then go back to work. There are women out there, by the way, who can work a job and still help raise the kids in an actual family. That is still possible, and quite frankly, it could still work. I don't think that actually falls in line of radical feminism. I mean, typically when you want a woman who's very, very effeminate, which by the way we all do, I typically tend to prefer my women on the effeminate side, not the damn butchy, bulky, burly Abby from Last of Us 2 side. Fact of the matter is this right here. Feminism, I think, especially nowadays, radical feminism is driving women in a direction where, quite frankly, they are just not, how do I say, you got a beautiful face, you got a beautiful body, but your personality is absolute crap. And if you've got a really, really bad personality, most men are just going to walk away from you anyway. So do us a favor, look yourself in the mirror, and begin to understand that you're going to have to make some adjustments if you want to have any change. Brings me back to the, is marriage even worth it nowadays? I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys just heard what I just played for you guys, and you probably thought to yourself, wow, man, women have got so many advantages nowadays. They've got so many different ways that they, quite frankly, can move around this, that it, quite frankly, is a nothing burger. You've got all these divorce cases. It's on the rise. Men will start up a business, will get married to a woman, not have her sign a prenup, and next thing you know, she's done gotten a hold of his company during the divorce. She's got the kids. Of course, you've got the male self-deletion rate is through the roof, because sometimes when men get to a certain age, and this right here is extremely sad because, of course, YouTube has got these little things out there where they actually put little fillers on your video and stymie your actual video content if you mention certain buzzwords like the SUICIDE phrase. Yes, this right here is becoming a much, much bigger problem. It's got a lot to do with the incoming crisis I think is going to happen with men, but it's also going to be a bit of an incoming crisis with women as well. To me, it almost makes you think that maybe there's going to be more debauchery to come. So the common man who goes to work every day and makes a living, is making only $37,000 a year, he sees this stuff out of women nowadays, and he sees it, quite frankly, it's a much that what they're putting out there is an extremely unrealistic version. He may expect that. Of course, watching porn is obviously going to have an effect on the mind. It's going to release dopamine at a much, much higher level. And, of course, when he actually meets an actual woman and gets an opportunity to talk to women, which, by the way, this right here is going to be more in the social media chapter of this entire series, this right becomes a problem because now he's been completely desensitized. It's almost as if to say that men are being given things like, say, online porn, OnlyFans, which I've already made it perfectly clear how I feel about the whole OnlyFans thing. I do, in fact, believe for the most part it's digital prostitution. You're just not screwing the person who's paying for it. As a man, you're paying for pictures, you're simping for a woman, and at the same time, though, you're giving them the actual leverage to say, look, you're the one who created this, when in reality, we're not the ones who created this. But they say, you know what, you rail against OnlyFans, but then you turn right back around and get an OnlyFans account, start following this girl out there, you're a big part of the problem. I can agree with some of that, but ladies, let's just go ahead and be honest. OnlyFans was not created for men, it was created for you. Okay, meaning that it was created so that way you could go online, make a cheap buck selling photos of your ass, and of course we now know that girls on OnlyFans don't make the amount of money that you guys were originally told to do so. Next thing you know, you've got all these photos of your ass, all these photos of your breast online, and everybody knows who the hell you are, because obviously, like in the case with Pinky Doll, people get a hold of these pictures, they take screenshots, they post them online, they post them on the internet. Next thing you know, they're free. You get all these Instagram accounts that, quite frankly, hack your OnlyFans account. Next thing you know, your pictures are out there for free, and you didn't get no money off of that. Like I said, it's digital prostitution. I got to agree with Tim Pool on that one. But not only is it digital prostitution, it's just downright demeaning and downright degrading for what is not even what a stripper makes in a night. But when men get this picture, when they get this actual photo of what women are online, and then they turn right back around and see that in real life, that's not what the hell it is. Yes, they've got to then at that same point in time begin to question whether it's actually worth it to get married and pursue a wife. Now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I am very, very much a fan of marriage. I am very, very much a fan of creating families. It's all about legacy. It's all about making sure your line continues. It's all about making sure the human race itself continues, which is a very, very weird stance for me to have, especially given the fact that our left-wing buddies on the opposite side, they rail about abortion and they rail about using abortion as birth control, but yet then they turn right back around and talk about the human race. Yet every time you turn around, they're always doing some form of contradiction, and they're always contradicting themselves, and they're always going out of their way to stymie the human race. Progressivism is extremely regressive, if you ask me. Now, while I have talked about red pill, black pill, and white pill very, very briefly, or mentioned it, please do not listen to the blue pill. And I would prefer, if anything, you listen to the red pill, extrapolate the good from it, and see what makes sense, see what the hell works, and then move to the white pill. Don't listen to the black pill, because the only thing the black pill is going to do is just depress the hell out of you, make you think that you're all alone, which, by the way, is what black pills are designed to do, because they're very, very much involved with propaganda. And, of course, the blue pill is just a straight-up a batch of lies. Don't worry. we will talk more about that in the weekend's video, because there's a certain somebody that, quite frankly, I need to bring up, because, quite frankly, a lot of times ladies out there get this impression that these men who are going to people like Rolo and Sartain and Sneeko, and I don't really care for Sneeko, but they're going to Fresh and Fit, are a bunch of misogynists, when that is not exactly the case. These men are just simply trying to better themselves, which is what I'll talk about now.
But I'm giving the real of what they really are dealing with. These women are not the same, dude. Like, if it was 1953 and the girls came, from a God-fearing household, they had their father in place, religion was a thing, shame was a thing, there was no social media, women actually were women and they were feminine and they weren't the masculine, butchering, ridiculous women that they are nowadays, I would tell you, yes, let's do it. But unfortunately, I cannot dispense that advice. That is the equivalent to giving them a butter knife and telling them, go into this gunfight. These women are different. They've changed. Men haven't changed, but women have.
But stay away from the...
Had to play that one more time. Now, granted, I'm not a fan of all of their methods. I'm not a fan of everything that Fresh and Fit does. I'm going to go ahead and say that now. There are times where, quite frankly, I do cringe a little bit with them. But for the most part, when they're doing their tips, their tricks, their actual, like I said, I wouldn't follow everything they do. Like I said, make sure you listen to it all the way out and fully vet them out. But I do believe for the most part, they are in fact going out of their way to teach men things. Now, whether you think that is good for you or not, that is solely up to you. I'm not here to tell you how to think. Now, look, really quick. That sounds a little bit hypocritical given the nature of my channel. It's for the most part conservative, right-wing commentary, damn near alt-right in some cases. And of course, you probably think that I'm telling you what to think. That's not the case. I'm telling you what is. In this case right here, I'm not going to tell you a whole lot, except that maybe what you should do is simply listen to what a lot of these guys say. Look, I know that I'm a grown-ass man. I know that, quite frankly, I have made mistakes. I have fallen short of the glory of God. I have made mistakes. I'm no different than any of you guys out there, okay? I have, first when I started doing this channel, I'm not going to lie to you, I came off as a little bit of a self-righteous, pretentious prick. It's only been since recent years that, quite frankly, I have chosen to mellow out, actually recent months, that I've chosen to actually mellow out a little bit more. And personally, to tell you the truth, while the results of the channel may not have as much views as what it was in the early days, I definitely feel a lot better as a person. At the end of the day, you have to find what the hell works for you. So if you feel like you need to go somewhere to actually learn to get better with the opposite sex, then quite frankly, I don't blame you for doing that. I do wish that you would actually do what Myron and Fresh said there earlier and actually get out in the field, because there are a lot of men out there who don't do this. They just go to Tinder apps and they just look at photos all day and don't even make a move. By the way, the whole online dating thing to me has always been weird. So just make sure that you're taking the good from the bad, actually separating. Outside of that, I don't see what these guys doing as wrong. Now, there is one more thing that does need to be said. In the hooded sweatshirt, after listening to him on multiple occasions, and like I said, the name is just always escapes my mind. And like I said, I do these videos off script. This guy, to me, I think was pretty smart. Okay, I think this guy right here comes from a much more traditional conservative section. I think you can do the traditional conservative route and you can do the other route. And I think you can do that. Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, completely close your mind off. Make sure you listen to the right voices. Make sure you look for the right places, the right guidance, and listen there. Okay, see what actually works for you. Just don't let something that could be perceived to be bad turn you bad, okay? I don't think these guys are bad at all, at least not my personal opinion. There's some people that are going to say they're all a bunch of lying grifters, and that's your right to feel that way. I haven't really and truly seen that, even though it does bother me that super chats like triple digits. We'll take $100. I'm not really into that entire thing, but still, though, at the same time, though, if you're going to take this advice, you're going to arm yourself. Just make sure you find what works for you and don't let it fully corrupt you, because there are people out there who will go a little bit too far with their newfound gifts, and next thing you know, they've done banged 50 women and done gotten an STD. Don't want that. They have a tendency to stick with you like luggage, okay? I'm just simply saying, I've heard a lot of horror stories. I've seen a lot of medical photos. That shit looks pretty bad. Especially syphilis, gonorrhea, the clap, the crud, I just say, just watch yourself. So I can actually understand why it is that a lot of people are reconsidering marriage. However, here's the thing. There are a lot of women out there who do want to be married, but then they get into a relationship, and then for whatever reason, it's almost like they completely forgot their vows. Look, I have never been married. I'm not married right now. I've had several relationships. They've failed for all kinds of reasons. I'm not going to hide that. I'm not going to come out here and act like I'm perfect. I've told you guys on several occasions I was trying to change the tone of this channel. A lot of this is because I may have come off as completely self-righteous when, quite frankly, I don't want to be self-righteous. I'm not really a self-righteous person in real life, even though I'm obviously here on YouTube on a soapbox, but still at the same time that I believe you can come out here and actually tell people the truth and be honest and be real with them as I'm being with you right now. The thing is this right here. A lot of people love the idea of marriage, but they don't actually want to put in the work to actually be married. And I understand that in today's world, it's much, much harder. That there being said, though, I'm still very, very much a fan of traditional family and still very, very much a fan of marriage. And let me go ahead and say something else, too. And I grant this is personal to me, or this is actually personal in my opinion. And given my age, you probably think that at some point in time I might want to consider this. But I will never, ever, 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 under any circumstances, get clipped. No, I will not. I don't care if you're 55 years old and you get married to a woman who's 35, which, by the way, I have a strong feeling that a part of this incoming crisis that we're going to have with men here in the future is going to involve a lot of women aged 25 to 30 marrying a lot of men aged 35 to 45. Yes, I added an additional 5 years because, quite frankly, it's all over the place. I have a feeling that's going to happen because the maturity levels are changing, and, of course, ladies are starting to look in different directions. That's a completely different topic we'll talk about in another video. But the fact of the matter is that as long as you can have kids, I think you need to try to leave. I'm not saying go out and get just random ladies pregnant. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you can get married, have kids and whatnot, even at your old age, by God, do so. Because guess what? You're adding to the world and you're still getting an opportunity even at a later age at fatherhood. And quite frankly, fatherhood's a very, very beautiful thing.
I think all of us are guilty of this, that we live too much on the internet, in that a lot of our perspectives are influenced because we are so online all the time.
I'm with you on talking to women in person, by the way.
100%.
I agree that guys need to go out there and talk to women.
And this all starts, by the way, with the fathers, right? My sons will have absolutely no problem talking to women, being confident with women. Like, it all starts there. And this is my whole.
So let me go ahead and conclude this video by saying this. Okay, I do in fact still believe in traditional marriage, even though I do know that traditional marriage is obviously a lot harder to achieve nowadays. I do believe that you should pursue a family. I do in fact believe that you should also strive to always be your best at everything. And let's be honest, the love of a beautiful woman, wife, and kids is obviously something that, quite frankly, can be an extremely beautiful thing. But it's your job to actually hold it in place, and it's also her job too, meaning that it's actually upon both of you. I know that the freaking light's a little bit brighter. That's why the hell I've actually had to make some additional, adjustments in the editing. So I do think it's obviously important that men continue to strive to do that. However, I do think it's also important for men to gather the skills and, of course, also attain the skills to be able to talk to other women. Yes, you're obviously going to be dating more women, and of course, you're probably going to be doing a little bit more screwing along the way, that type of thing there, so obviously that is to come. Fact of the matter, however, though, and I want to end this video on this note here. I'm going to place the macabre storytelling video in here, and I advise you guys to watch it, because there's a certain section of that video that some blue pill people got completely wrong, but I want you guys to watch it anyway so you guys can know exactly what he said. It's about the part when it comes to why men would actually seek out the advice from some of these gurus. Of course, the reason why they're doing that is because the other side of the aisle is not really much help to them, but we'll talk more about the blue pill, red pill thing, which, by the way, that video will come out on Saturday. Tomorrow, the videos are going to be about this whole pronoun thing and gaming. Of course, politics has come back in gaming. We're going to be talking about the whole ADL thing, Elon Musk suing them, and give you guys my actual thoughts late on that one. And of course, on Friday, there's going to be a third video out. So right now, there's 4 more videos planned for the week. So make sure you guys stick around for all 4. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe if you're new here. Also, something else to hit the notifications bell. I'd love to get you guys' thoughts in the comment section. Tell me where I'm wrong. And I'll see you guys later.